which I am going to show you. It is known as piano stairs. Again, in Sweden, they had the stairs designed in the form of piano keys. And when you stand on or when you climb the stairs, you can hear sound as if you are pressing the piano keys. This curiosity factor, this fun factor, nudged people to use 62% more times the stairs compared to that of the escalators. Obviously, fun will change behavior, and fun has the potential to make people behave for the betterment of the society. Next example, can you come up with one gamification idea to motivate people to help starving people? It is a non fact that millions of people across the world starve on a day to day basis. But how to sensitize people to contribute for the betterment of my fellow being who may die if somebody don't intervene? There is an initiative by UN called Free Rice. In Free Rice is a quizzing game. I enroll in Free Rice and I play the game quiz. Each time when I say the correct answer, 6 grains of rice will be kept aside for poor people. So there are three stakeholders. One is UN, and second is the player, and third is the people who are in need. So UN, they need to sensitize people about the poverty, and the poor people, they need food, and the players, they need knowledge. So when I acquire knowledge, the outcome of that activity is that I am also helping poor people get food. And as a result of that, till date, 6,000 metric tons of rice have been given to poor people as a result of players playing free rice. Next example is how to motivate people to drive energy efficiently, because energy is becoming a very, very rare commodity. And if don't use carefully, our future is very bleak. So how to use energy efficiency and make it game-like? Actually, Ford, they have come up with efficiency leaves in the dashboard. When you drive, you can see a plant with flowers, and when you are driving efficiently, you can see the plant flourishing, the flowers blossoming. And when you are driving rashly, when you are driving energy not efficiently, you can see the flowers wilting off and you can see the plant actually suffering. So by giving a visual representation of the impact of your behavior, actually Ford has helped people to use drive car energy efficiently. And the last example, how to make people motivate people to use public waste bins. There was an initiative called the deepest bin in the world. The concept is very simple. They used the curiosity of people to make people use waste bin. When you put a waste inside that bin, you can see a very strange sound, like the waste is going to a very deep hole. And the people became very curious. And surprisingly, if you watch the video in the YouTube, you can see people collecting the waste from around and putting it just to hear that strange noise. And it was found that they were able to collect 80 times more waste as a result of this particular gamification. So by using the gaming elements of curiosity, competition, and many other, the choice, mystery, puzzle, you can make people behave in a manner in a positive manner that will be beneficial for the society. So as I said, gamification is a vast topic which can be explored for days, But cutting it short to a 15-minute session was challenging, but I hope I was successful in giving you a small snapshot of why gamification it's a topic that is to be discussed, what is gamification, and what are the some minor implications of gamification when it comes to citizens, society, and behavioral change. So that's all from my part. Over to Akila.
We really enjoyed it, sir, and it was very much interesting to know the application of gamification with respect to learning, education, every aspect. And also being his own student, I find it fascinating listening to and participating in this session, sir. Thanks a lot on behalf of all the participants and on behalf of POSISH Research Institution, sir. We do have some questions, sir.
Sure,
We
sure.
can.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yes, sir. The first one is by Ali.
Yeah.
That he says that he thinks there is a difference between games and other activities. Most sports are already a game.
Hmm.
Running, boxing, football, soccer, etc. are games. So
Yeah,
your take on that.
actually, why gamification is uh, I talk about gamification. You have the what do you call superior topic of game thinking, and games, gamification, serious games, simulations, everything comes under the umbrella of game thinking. And games are activities done without a what do you call particular outcome. You play the game just for fun. But when it comes to serious games, for example, serious games like Planville, a game introduced by Siemens to give people an idea of how to maintain a plant, how to across the world, how to operate a plant and achieve the key performance indicators like safety, timely delivery, etc. That is a serious game with the purpose of educating people about plant management. My Marriott Hotel, that is a serious game with the purpose of educating people on how to manage a hotel. So we have games, we have serious games, and we have gamification. Actually, Nike Plus is not a serious game. People, they are not just playing a game, but the running process is like a game by integrating the competition and the collaboration and the badges, points, aspects. So these are all different components of the game thinking continuum.
I hope the doubt is clear. We have another doubt also, sir. What's the
Yeah.
difference between gamification and civic engagement?
So, as I said, gamification is to make things game-like, to make it interesting. And as we saw in these examples, if you want, it's all about engagement. I believe in games because that is one concept which has cleared the test of time. If something can engage us, capture our imagination for the past tens and thousands of years, it is here to stay. So games have been with human race for so long, right from our inception, and it will stay. So, and that will help us change the behavior also. For example, as Plato rightly said, if you want to, in the recruitment context, if you want to know the real behavior of a person, you have to play a game with him for 1 hour, and you will know who he is better than being with him for 1 year. Because when you play a game, the real spirit of him come up, whether he is a cheat, whether he is a team player, whether he is considerate, whether he is focused, everything will be evident in a game. So in civil engagement also, if you want to engage, because today's world is characterized by engagement crisis, and we are finding it very tough to engage customers, employees, learners, and even citizens. In terms of customers, Microsoft recently found that they may spend millions of dollars building a website, but it takes less than 10 seconds to for a person to decide whether to stay in the website or move to the next website. Just a 10-second window. And the average attention span of a human being was 12 seconds in 2000, and now it is 8 seconds. The average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. In English language, there is a usage as dumb as a goldfish. But as a species, we are getting dumber than a goldfish. So in this particular situation, engagement becomes the key. And when it comes to citizenship engagement, it is very, very important to integrate game elements to make it engaging. Actually, we are actually in the afternoon. I am having a meeting with our metro, our suburban metro officials. We are actually planning to gamify the entire railway station, because that is the place where people come, and how we can integrate the values. For example, cleanliness is a value. Empathy is a value. Honesty is a value. So how can we integrate these values using gamification in public places? That is the main thing that we are going to talk about. So I believe civic engagement and gamification, they should go hand in hand.
Well explained, sir. Thanks a lot. Actually, we have a question answer session after Nasir Khan's sir's session also. So if you have any questions, you can post in the chat. Next, I would like to request Mr. Nasir Khan sir to sharing his valuable insights on the topic civic education in Afghanistan, a gamified approach to learning and development. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, Akhila, and thank you very much, Dr. Manu, for the insights. It was very informative. I personally learned a lot.
Thank you, sir.
It's very interesting, and I'm really happy to be here today discussing a gamified approach to teaching and learning in civic education in Afghanistan. Prior to that, the topic was really new when I first saw the email coming from Prashesh. But then I knew it would somehow connect to my education first, and then second, my current work at UNESCO. So to give you a little background, currently at UNESCO, I work the Hamdali project. Every one of my Afghan fellows understand what Hamdali means. Hamdali means to share a feeling of sympathy towards each other. So Hamdali project, what we do under Hamdali project, we devise and implement sports and artistic activities to foster peaceful coexistence among the internally displaced people, the returnees from Iran and Pakistan, and then their host communities in the two provinces, in Herat and Jalalabad. So I'll start my presentation with one question, with two questions actually. Number one is, let me start my presentation with the title. Okay, so number one is, can you all please tell me what Atan is? It's a local Afghani dance, I will tell you, but who does it belong to and where it comes from? And tell me about a little more about its origin. And when do we usually do Atan?
Dance.
Anyone can unmute the mic or put the thoughts or comments into the chat box. Okay, it's a local dance. We do Atans. Okay. Okay, all right. Or the reading. I love it. But then when it comes to civic engagement, in Afghanistan, it is a diverse multi-ethnic nation in a context such as Afghanistan. We do not even care about its root into a specific, I would say, socio-economic background of any individual or any ethnic group. We just dance the way it is. It's a town, it's a national cultural heritage that we respect, and we want to keep it revived. Okay, so the next question is, who knows about South? It is the South Asia. I'm sorry for the misspelling. It's the South Asia Football Federation. And what happened in 2015 when Afghanistan won the South? Again, anyone can unmute and then or put the comments in the chat box.
Offline.
People dance at very close to the airport, and also they were celebrating their happiness with different types of feelings, dancing, sporting, and many others showing up.
Exactly. It was not across Kabul. It was across Afghanistan. It was a national thing. We exhibited our nationhood rather than ethnichood when we won the South. Or even when it comes to cricket, when the Afghan national team wins any particular game around the world, that's when we become a nation. That is the most civilized practice we're exhibiting here in Afghanistan. You see, so this gaming and gamification in sports and physical activities is what I think, and it could be because I work on a particular project related to the area, but this is the only way for us in Afghanistan to foster the feeling of empathy and sympathy towards each other, to foster a sense of peaceful coexistence in the country, and then to exhibit our nationhood to the world. Other than this, we really find it hard at some point to become a nation. We have been in war forever now. I see Ismatullah Hassani has a question or a comment, please. Ismatullah, if you're mute, please unmute yourself and then raise your question.
I guess he doesn't hear us, so I dropped him a message.
Okay. Sure. He can raise his question in the chat box. So let's get started with the overall. Dr. Manu provided a very good picture of what gamification is. And then I will quickly go through the history, and then we'll come back to how it can help with the civic education and learning here in Afghanistan. So without any further ado, it all started with S&H, what they call, with S&H, I'm sorry, with S&H posters that were sold in 1896. So the history goes as far as that. So the marketers used the stamps from Sperry and Hutchinson to reward their loyal customers. And then a study was done in 1973 by Charles Conard that on how could we use the feedback loop from the sports into the world of business and workspace. That trend continued, and then in the year 1979, MUD1 was invented, and then MUD stands for multi-user Dangan. It was created by Roy Turbishaw at the University of Essex, and the purpose was to slay monsters and then explore fantasy and complete quests and go on adventures. And then the trend continued. Another study was conducted, but then it was really looked into people, the researchers, Thomas Mellon specifically, looked into how to make things fun when it comes to learning. So it was really looked from a lens of instructional design into the world of gamification, and that was in 1980s. But then the gamification made its way further to the world of business during the 1980s, and then in the 1990s, 30% of the American households at least owned one NES device at their house that fostered again a sense of competition, adventurous activities, and foster learning at all. But then in 1996, Richard Bartel put the theoretical framework around learning using gamification, and then he looked into intrinsic motivations versus learning when it comes to gamification. And then in the early 2000s, gamification was a real serious initiative in the world of learning, and that's how it made its way. It made its way to the world of civic education. For example, the U.S. Started with several gamified approaches to civic education. The real life examples are iCivic, and then What Are My Rights, and other major gamified approaches to teaching and learning civic education in the United States. So the overall outcome of gamification, it has made its way to the business world. It has made its way to the brains of the consumers. And then it has made its way to the groundbreaking science projects in politics. For example, the US presidential elections, the simulation models in the US presidential elections are great examples of gamification in civic education. So I quickly passed those other slides, but then we really need to focus on the technical areas of intervention of using gamification in civic education in Afghanistan. So I think it's late, but it's better late than never to start with the idea of gamification around the civic education here in Afghanistan at this point, especially now that we are foreseeing a transition of maybe I would say political power. We don't know yet. We are yet to know the format, but then it's I think the right time that the Afghan educational actors and then the civic actors could work together to look into how to gamify the civic education in Afghanistan. I think the subject this civic education was introduced into the curriculum of Afghanistan only early in 2000s, but then it is really theoretical. It does not reflect upon gamified approaches or practical approaches to teaching and learning civic education here in Afghanistan. I think as an immediate start, we can maybe even PRSO can start with conducting a literature review of how to understand the international best practices. For example, how did different countries around the world embed gamified approaches to teaching and learning civic education into their curricula, into their schooling systems, and then provide the recommendations to the Ministry of Education, Afghan Ministry of Education, to potentially look into building interpersonal skills such as communications, teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, active listening skills, reasoning skills, using gamification in education in Afghanistan. That's a very quick start. We don't need to help students at some point in the beginning of the embedding into the curriculum. We don't need to look into more broader issues around human rights and democracy and state building and everything. But we can really look into building interpersonal skills into our students as future responsible citizens, as future leaders, as future nation builders here in Afghanistan. That's a quick start. And then in intermediate terms, I would also propose for long term, we can embed gamified learning objectives into our curriculum with a rather narrowed focus on experiential learning and inquiry-based learning of civic education. As I provided the examples, civics in the case of United States, it's a very innovative approach to teaching civic education to students at the school level, and it could be potentially embedded into the higher education system as well. Another example was, do I have the right, in which the students engage and speak on different human rights, on different rights for them as human. And then when the White House, it teaches really students in the United States about presidential races in the United States. So these are all broader areas of intervention for the Afghan civic actors and educational leaders to look into and then try to embed in the long term into their education system. I think, as Dr. Manu rightly put it, it's a very innovative model to help change behaviors into people, to help build skills, and then to help make people rather responsible citizens using gamification in education. With that said, I don't want to overword a lot, and I don't want to make it a really, I would say, monologue. I will keep it as a dialogue and then leave the floor open for the participants to raise questions, and then let's discuss. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you a lot for sharing your insight about this very useful topic in Afghanistan. Many interesting points that I'm sure everybody would have enjoyed listening to. Now we have the session for question and answer. We would like the participants to ask their questions. You can post your queries in the chat box. But first, let me share some questions which was asked to Manu sir. But due to our schedule, we have to schedule the session for question and answer after Nasir Khan sir's session. So at this time, participants, if you have any queries to Nasir sir, you can post it in the chat box. By this time, we can move to the questions which was given to Manu sir. So sir, this question is related to virtual reality and real life, sir, with respect to the example that you have shared. That is, in real life, we can control a car with accelerator, gear shift, etc. But virtual reality is different from real life. So this question was asked by Ahmad Hamid, sir. What's your take on this, sir?
Yeah, if you look into the real corporate training, they have been integrating virtual reality and augmented reality in their training and development process. So if you look into many different industries, there are many trainings that are possible in real life. For example, if you are talking about pilots, you can't have a real training for pilot because it can be very dangerous. So we have flight simulators, and now we have virtual reality integrated in flight simulators where they can have a lot of experiences, maybe an explosion or all the problems that they may face in real life. The very close to real life experience can be replicated using the latest technologies of virtual reality and augmented reality. So if you look into the functioning of our brain, our brain, if by the kind of senses we get, it is very difficult for us to distinguish between reality and virtuality, because whatever we see, if you play a game and if you look into the what you call brain activities of a person, it will be very similar to a person who is racing the car in real life. So that is the reason why these games are so effective. So if there are, so all the places where it is very difficult for us to have real world intervention, we can obviously substitute that with the latest technologies of virtual reality, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence. For example, there is a what you call simulation called Lifesaver. Lifesaver is a simulation or a game in which what will we do if a person with us is having a heart attack? There are a lot of series of steps that we have to do, and we should be very clear on whether we should call 911, or whether we should give water to him, or whether we should pump his heart. So if you make the person play this game maybe repeatedly 10 to 15 times, it will naturally come to him what you should do at that particular point of time without any second thought. So this is how these the latest technologies, when integrated with the learning process, will have a real world impact.
Great, sir. So we have one more question also from
Yeah.
Ali. Do you think that gamification makes things lose value?
I believe that just like technology, gamification is also a double-edged sword. Whether technology is good or bad, it depends on how judiciously we use it. And gamification is not just about video games, it's about any type of games. And how we can use the best part of games. What makes a game engaging? How can use those engaging components in a non-gaming context? So obviously, instead of losing value, it will enhance the value of what we have. For example, imagine when the learning process of a student is as engaging as playing a game for him, the value obviously goes up. Like that, imagine the daily work life of an employee is as engaging as a game, so his productivity goes up. So if applied correctly, the games or the gamification concept will enhance the value of whatever it is integrated into. That's what I believe. And thank you for the question.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Now we have some questions to Nasir Khayan, sir. Sir, the question is how to apply gamification in times of COVID-19 and its variants, considering the social distancing and other SOPs.
Perfect. So under my UNESCO project, it's a very real life example that I can give you right now. Whose was this question? Sorry, I missed that. Who is this question coming from, Akhila?
This question was posted by Ali Amani, sir.
Okay, Mr. Amani. So under my current UNESCO project, we devised a response plan to COVID-19, considering the facts around social distancing and large gatherings actually being banned because of COVID-19. So in Afghanistan, as you see the culture, there are certain ways other than physical activities that we can engage people into. For example, under the Handley project, we have a component, it's a radio program for Heritage and Nangarharis, that we do storytelling and dramas to keep people engaged and then foster a sense of nation building, peace building, and fostering community cohesion. It's not always about physical activities. Gamification is actually, back to the definition, gamification is applying elements of games or play into certain activities. It's not rather a game itself. It's applying application of certain elements of a game into certain types of activities. You see what I mean? I hope this helps.
Yes, truly. Now we have other question also from Reza Haidari. So the question is, what is the current situation of gamification in Afghanistan?
Okay.
And
so
what is a good model of gamification for Afghan people to be in peace and nation building? There are two questions.
Of course, yes. Okay, so let's start with the examples. The examples are the SAF championship, and then the each football or cricket games that we are waning around the globe, or at least traditionally in Asia, and then other artistic activities such as exhibitions, music festivals. You see, all of these are great examples of how to bring people together to speak and then to foster a sense of nationhood, and then get them engaged into speaking with each other and developing a sense of sympathy and empathy towards each other as a nation, rather than staying in isolations in the central highlands, in the west, and the north, and the south of Afghanistan. So that was number one. Number two, where currently we stand with gamification in Afghanistan. I would say UNESCO is, my project is the first of its kind in the country, first. Second, we do have certain types of, or elements of games embedded into our curriculum in the school, at least during the 1 hour of, or at least I would not say 1 hour of calendar hour, one credit hour of physical education into our curriculum. Of course, it's not a missing element in our curriculum right now. We have that physical education for 1 hour at least a day for certain grades of students, or that is also a gamified approach to teaching and learning. That still teaches teamwork, that still teaches communication, that still teaches leadership skills to the students, to be honest. But then there are other factors that we need to keep in mind. For example, diversity of the student body in a school. So that's as for where the government stands and in the international counterparts such as UNESCO. But then UNFPA is currently working on their new initiative called using sports for development. Sports for development. That's where we currently stand. But then overall, at least for the kids of war, it has not aided into formal education system in Afghanistan. It rather devastated the system. Myself, in a state of, for example, learning numbers, basic numeracy, using some gamified approaches, I learned how to count bullets, how to count guns. Initially, when Dr. Manu started the discussion, I saw people commenting range shooting or shooting as a very live example of gamification here in Afghanistan. But no, that's something that fosters violence here in the country, rather than fostering civility. So we rather need to, at this point, at least at this point, immediately need to think of physical activities such as sports, mainly sports, and then other artistic activities such as music festivals, film festivals, dramas, everything else. At this point, rather than refuging back to range shooting and other violent sports, to make this country more civil, to make this country rather a nation, and then to build peace and foster coexistence. Thank you.
That's a great explanation, sir. We have some more questions. One question is posted by Charles, that is there any relationship between gamification and addiction? And also, could you tell about the assessment of effects on gamification on learning part?
Dr. Manu, you want to go?
Actually, as
Yes,
I said in the previous comment, gamification and addiction, games are really addictive. So as I said, technology is a double-edged sword. Like that, games also is a double-edged sword. It is what type of games you are playing. If you are playing strategic games instead of shooter games, obviously the difference will be very evident. If you for example, take the case of Age of Empires. It's a game in which you are given an empire, you are given all the resources, you have to build the empire and you have to defend the empire. It is very much like building your business. So all the people who are into business, all the people who want to have an orientation like that, this type of strategic games will really work. And so always it is about how judiciously you use it. So it depends on people, because some people, irrespective of whatever they do, they have an inclination towards addiction. They are inclinated to technology, inclinated to games, addicted to whatever they do. So that's a more than a personal inclination. Games, I think we have to look into the positive aspects of games. Maybe 1% of people, they may be addicted, but what happens to the 99% of the people who which they have positive outcomes? So it is upon where to we look upon, and how we will reap out the benefits of this particular activity. I think that is what we have to look forward for.
Agreed, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the nice and professional presentation on
Thank you.
gamification.
Thank you.
There is a question I would like to pose it, and that question is that how do you see the feasibility of gamified civil education, considering the poor infrastructure, technological infrastructure in Afghanistan and in underdeveloped countries in general?
For example, as I rightly said, one definition or one quote given by Mr. Gabe Sickerman about gamification is 75% psychology and 25% technology. So just by playing with the psychology of the people, you can actually bring in great gamification. For example, in what do you call, in one particular state of India, they want students to have what do you call, awareness about waste management. So what they did was, it's a government school, so they announced if you bring so much kg of waste, plastic waste, then you don't have to pay the fee. So students, they collected all the waste from the different parts of their particular city or their village and deposited it to the school. And from school, the lawmakers, they can directly collect it. So there is the two-edged sword. That is, one is they can build in a kind of culture among the students, which they will continue till as they become adults. And they have bring in an innovative way. Instead of just making something very mundane, they have made it a competition. For example, we all know the story of Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer, he was asked to paint the fence, but he made painting the fence such a wonderful activity that all his friends, they were paying him to paint his fence. So actually, there is a seed of fun in all activities. So it is just about exploring the seed of fun. If you look into the gaming world, Farmville, where people do farming, which is not such an interesting activity maybe in real life. Or if you take Diaper Dash, how to diaper a newborn baby, that is a hit game. So you can make any boring activity, you can find a seed of fun in that activity. So therefore, there is no need of a lot of technology or resource intensification when it comes to gamification. All you need is understand the context, identify the need of the people, and apply some psychological principles, and you can have a wonderful gamification there.
And then, of course, the elements of play.
Exactly.
We don't, for the elements of play, for example, fostering a sense of competition among students or among a specific group.
Yes.
You don't need any certain type of infrastructure for that. It's
correct.
It's just that you play with their mindset, with their psychology, and then you foster a challenge, and then people get engaged. The overall purpose of gamification is to get people engaged into a certain activity. It's either learning, it's behavioral change, or anything else.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Professor Manu, for the professional answer, and thank you so much for thank you so much, Mr. Kaihan, for the nice contribution to the answer. Mr. Kaihan, there is another question. I think this question is for you. How do you evaluate gamified approach, especially in promoting the human rights values? And at what levels do you recommend some initiatives to begin?
So can you please rephrase the question again? I'm sorry, I missed part of it.
Yes, the question is, how do you evaluate a gamified approach, and especially in promoting human rights values, and at what levels do you recommend some initiatives to be taken?
I think for really for evaluating what they say as the behavior change in when it comes to issues around human rights, I can at the moment I can think of the causal activity for evaluation. That's knowledge, attitude, skills, and aspirations. So we need to see the level of knowledge the gamified approach to teaching and learning human rights values build in individuals, and then how it changes people's attitudes as we go through the learning process, or as they go through the learning process, and then what skills, what interpersonal skills, or even hard or other soft skills the activity builds into students or individuals that are the beneficiaries of a direct project or program. And then the aspirations, what they hope to achieve using those skills, attitude, and knowledge that they have built already. So this is the one method of evaluation when it comes to teaching human rights values, values using gamification. So what was the second component of the question? I'm sorry, I missed that.
At what levels do you recommend some initiatives to be taken?
I think if that is directed towards schooling, if the question is directed towards schooling, it's because what level, I don't really know specifically what level of society, or the question asks about school or tertiary education. It should really start with what yes. I would say intermediate level.
I think, sorry for the intervention. I think it's about the school, because we're now evaluating gamification in education system.
So that should really start with intermediate level of school. That means beyond primary level here in Afghanistan, which starts with grade 7.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question also. Are human rights moral or merely legal? It was shared in the chat, sir.
Dr. Manu, you want to jump in?
Actually, the essence of game is it has to be voluntary. Most of the time, gamification goes wrong when we force people to play a game. If you're in an organization, you introduce a gamification and you ask all the people to play it, then the real soul of game is lost. It is voluntary. It has to come from within. Like that, human rights also should come from within. And when it becomes legal, it is from outside. So as the fundamental philosophy, it should be inside out philosophy. That is, it should come from inside to the out. It should not be forced from outside to in. Just like a seed, when it is broken from inside, it becomes a tree. And when it is broken from outside, it goes wasted. So like that, so I believe that it should come from within, and games have the potential to bring in the best, the good things out of people. So when you have the right application of gamification in context, then you don't actually need a legal framework to make it happen, because people, because of the moral binding, will adhere to what is the right kind of thing to be done at that particular point of time.
Yes, and that's one reason that that I raised the question initially of getting to know our audience, because if we really deep dive into the teaching and instructional design and learning, we really, in teaching and learning and instructional design, we really look into intrinsic motivations and then extrinsic factors that drives learning. So it really depends on the individual to see human rights as moral or legal, as Dr. Manu rightly put it. If it is intrinsic, it is really moral. It's you who decides on whether and how to go about human rights. But then if it's extrinsic, it could be rather legal, and then because it is all those systems, procedures, policies, and guidelines that are coming from external sources and drives us towards how to and whether and how to go about human rights.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, Manu, sir. Thank you, Kaihan, sir. Now we have come to end of our session. We have covered all the questions. But before saying goodbye, on behalf of PRSO Research and Studies Organization, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the speakers, the participants, and the PRSO team, especially Mr. Zakrullah Damani, for his efforts in making this event happen, and also inviting me to moderate this prestigious webinar. It was amazing and interesting. We appreciate your participation and looking forward to hosting you in our future events too. Thank you all. Thank you for being here.
Special
Goodbye.
thanks to Mr. Sakrul Dharmani, because he was for the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he was behind this, taking a lot of pain for planning, calling me, discussing. So big thanks to Sakrullah Dharmani and all the organizers of PRSO Research and Studies Organization. And wishing you all the very best, Nasir Kaihan sir, for all your great initiatives. So let the game unite many countries and bring the best out of each one of us. That is what we are looking forward for.
Yeah, thank you very much, PRSO team. Thank you very much, Akhila, for nice moderation. And thank you very much for the coordination, Mr. Dharmani and Mr. Shaigon. And thank you very much, Dr. Manu, for the insightful discussion and being with
Thank
us
you, sir.
today. Yes. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Akhila.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thanks for all.
Killa, thank you so much. This is Reza, by the way, the technical team. Yeah, I'm staying here in Mysore, by the way.
Sorry?
I'm staying here in Mysore, Karnataka.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Nice meeting
Thank
you
you for
guys.
giving me this opportunity.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. So I will need to
Sure.
end the session and to end the recording as well. You guys take care, and yeah, meeting you again, by the way.
Yeah.